My name is Lamai from the GMS, the End is Near 2 camp in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I want to give all praises to Yahawah, Sham, Yahawashi, double honors to the elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to all the sincere Akim, laboring in true sincerity, and diligently seeking out their own salvation with fear and trembling. Today, I basically have this video is going to be entitled Ww3 On The Horizon, and I got this article from what is this 0hedge.com, and I'm gonna read my first scripture real quick. This is Revelation chapter 1 verse Revelation 9 and 12, and it says, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more after. And that's referring to the fact, woe basically in the Hebrew means destruction, but you had when it's saying woe, it's talking about um basically World War I. The first woe is talking about referring to World War I, and you know, that's basically past already. But it says there come two woes more hereafter. And, we already had World War II, and now we're entering into basically World War III, which is on the horizon. So this is by Paul Craig Roberts. It says, "Can you see war on the horizon?" Right. So I'm gonna read some stuff out of this article. It says, um, according to the news reports in the Brussels press, Russian President Vladimir Putin instructed Russia's industries to prepare themselves to be able to make a quick switch to war production. All right, because everything that's going on right now, you could see that war is basically is the end is near. War is basically coming. So that's basically what the president is doing. That's why Russia is really militarizing itself. Because ever since basically a little quick history from what I know, ever since World War II, it's always been America or the West, NATO versus the basically the Russia and its nations. Because after World War II, they made something called the Warsaw Pact, where they basically I guess they basically were making allies with other countries, putting in exchange for those countries being allies towards them, not just being at peace with them, but being allies. Because you have NATO basically in Europe, and they basically were building themselves up militarily, because that's basically what the Cold War was about. It's like, ever since World War II, you knew that a war was brewing, but it was just a matter of the mainly, I would say, being spearheaded by Russia, and then being spearheaded by America, which with NATO, the beast. So basically, you knew that eventually a war was gonna happen, but it's just a matter of the countries, what I'm saying, getting themselves in order to prepare for that war. So it says clearly the Russian government would not make such an announcement unless it was convinced that the prospect of war with the West was real. And that's what I was saying. They know that it's gonna be a upcoming war, so that's why they're trying to get like the Russia. They're trying to station themselves in certain strategic countries, and they're trying to not allow America to basically just like how they were doing in the Middle East. They're taking over the land, putting their military bases in place, putting their puppet leaders that will be allies to NATO/America, and basically would help them to further push their agenda, which would be to kill, steal, and destroy, basically. All right, so it says, for some time, I have emphasized in my column that the consequences of years of hostile action taken by Washington and its European vassals against Russia was leading to war. It says, Slocky. It says it is easy to understand that the massive U.S. military security complex needs a convincing enemy in order to justify its enormous budget. And I'm gonna go to this article real quick. Speaking of military budget, to this other article real quick. This is from let me see, what's The Balance. That's the name of this website. It says U.S. military budget components challenge growth. It says here's the 250 billion hidden It's like $250 billion in hidden military spending. The U.S. military budget is $824.6 billion. That's the budget for the fiscal year of 2018, which covers a period of October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. It says military spending is the second largest federal government expenditure after Social Security at $1 trillion. It says U.S. military spending is larger than the next 9 countries combined. Damn.
That's deep.
It says there are 4 components. First is the $574.5 billion base budget for the Department of Defense. Then second is the overseas contingency operation for uh it says DOD to fight the Islamic State group, which is 64.6 billion. Uh It says third is the total other agencies that protect our nation. These expenses are 173.5 billion. They include the Department of Veterans Affairs, which is 78.9 billion, the State Department, which is 27.1 billion, Homeland Security, 44.1 billion, FBI and Cybersecurity, and the Department of Justice, which is 9.5 billion, and the National Nuclear Security Administration and the Department of Energy, which is 13.9 billion. The last component is 12 billion in OCO funds for the State Department and Homeland Security to fight ISIS. Yeah, it's given the sources. It says Dodd requested 574.5 billion. It seeks to, and it's giving you. Let me see. All right, so it says increase manning levels for all 4 branches, a 2.1% pay raise for military personnel, and 1.9% pay raise for civilian personnel. That's something that a lot of Jakes basically, they look at how much they're getting, basically as an incentive for joining the military, which we know, what I'm saying, if you're an Israelite, it's kind of foolish or whatever for you to join the military because, what I mean, they're going to try and draft you into this war that they're basically preparing for. It says 3, add to Navy shipyard capacity and aviation depot maintenance, increase Army unit and flight training, increase Air Force weapons and pilots, beef up cybersecurity forces that include strengthening space control and investing advanced munitions systems, reduce spending on headquarters by 25%, improve audits, uh, acquisition practices, and commissionary spending, eliminate excess infrastructure. And it says 8, save $2 billion a year by closing military bases. Which, I mean, that's kind of bullshit because, they're making more military bases. Or I don't know, maybe they mean military bases in the U.S. and put them somewhere else or something. It says continue retirement and TRICARE reform. If you include subsidized housing, free health care, and other benefits, military personnel receive the average compensation works out to $59,000 for enlisted personnel and more than $108,000 for officers. So that's basically, just that right there. It says the average compensation works out to $59,000. So that's what they're the low ranking people or whatever, that's what they're holding over carrot they're holding over people's heads, what I'm saying, to get them to join the military. It says the Air Force requested 10.3 billion for 70 F 3 so like F-35 Joint Strike Fighters aircrafts. Overall, the program will cost 400 billion for 2,457 planes. Most of the cost has been for development and testing. Well, I mean, yeah, you could pretty much look up this stuff yourself, but I mean, all right, I'm gonna just go down the list. You know what I'm saying? The Defense Department will also purchase the following equipment. It says KC-48 tanker, 15 aircraft, 3.1 billion, B-21 bomber, 2.2 2 billion. Virginia class submarines, 2 ships, 5.5 billion. DDG 51 destroyers, 2 ships, 4 billion. And I mean the list goes on. You see, so basically they're purchasing more, um, vehicles or armored vehicles and all that, weapons of war, crafts for war to go to war. You know what I mean? So they could put them and spread them out, and so they could win this Cold War that we were just talking about. Uh, yeah, and this is actually giving you a history of how the budget went up since 2003. She says Iraq War launched March 19th. The Afghan War, that was 2005. So as you see, America kept going in. As you look at this list and the timeline right here, you see America kept going in and basically attacking all these different countries, and that's what basically justified them for their military increase in their military budget. So it says 2017 increase in VA and FBI funding. Trump asked Congress for 30 billion more in military spending. It says 2018 Trump asked Congress to repeal sequestration for the defense budget, requesting a spending increase to fight ISIS. And I mean that's pretty much it for this article. I mean you can get the point of what I was trying to bring out about the military spending. Slocky. All right, so you said. All right. So you see what I was saying about the budget. All right. It says, for example, on November 13th, it says Theresa May said that Russia was a threat to international security and was interfering in European elections and hacking European governments. There is no more evidence for these claims than there is for Russiagate, yet the allegations continue to multiply. Now the European Union is organizing former provinces of the Soviet Union, uh, Belarus, Moldova, Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, in Azerbaijan into an Eastern partnership with the European Union. In other words, the West is openly organizing formed provinces of Moscow against Russia, declared by Prime Minister May to be a hostile state. So basically, they're demonizing Russia. They're creating the atmosphere for them to justify going in. Just like how they created the atmosphere, Saddam Hussein got weapons of mass destruction. The list goes on and on. Muammar Gaddafi and uh, Libya. The list goes on and on and on. So it says, think about it for a moment. The world is being driven to Armageddon simply because a greedy and corrupt U.S. military security complex needs an enemy to justify its huge budget. Because Hillary and the Democratic National Convention cannot accept a political defeat, and because the neoconservatives have an ideology of American supremacy. What's the difference between the detested white supremacy and the American supremacy that President Obama himself endorsed? Why is white supremacy terrible and the American supremacy God's gift to the exceptional and indispensable country? And I mean, America's supremacy and white supremacy is like the same thing, basically. It says the Russian government has openly shared its concern that Russia is being set up for a military attack. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this article. I'm gonna just hit these scriptures and then close it out. So this is Revelation 11 and 14. It says the second woe is past, and that's referring to World War II. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So that's what we're talking about. The third woe, which is World War III. It's Joel chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem," which Judah is talking about the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and then you have Jerusalem, which is another keyword for the northern kingdom. So it says, "I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat," which is the Most High's judgment. Um, uh, "and I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land." So that's talking about how, basically all the nations is going to be a huge war that's going to take place in the Middle East, and the Most High is going to basically judge the nations for what they did to his people. All right, so that's basically it in a nutshell. So I'm gonna give all praises to Yahawah, Sham, Yahawashi, double honors to the elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to all the sincere Akim. Shalom.